Imagine this. You're standing on the brink of a promise, a land flowing with milk and honey, a future you've dreamed of for your entire life. God's presence is so real you can almost taste it. Yet, when the moment comes to step forward, a wave of fear paralyzes you. This isn't just a story. It's the critical turning point for an entire nation, a moment captured in the ancient Book of Jasher and the biblical narrative, where faith and fear collide with world-changing consequences. We're at the edge of the promised land, Canaan. The Israelites, having escaped slavery in Egypt and witnessed miracle after miracle, are finally here. Moses, their leader, chooses 12 spies, one from each tribe, to scout out the land. Their mission is simple: see what the land is like, who lives there, and bring back a report. For 40 days these spies travel through a land of incredible abundance. They see massive clusters of grapes, so large it takes 2 men to carry one. They witness fertile valleys and thriving cities. The promise is real. It's better than they could have ever imagined. They return to the camp, their arms full of the land's bounty. The report starts on a high note. Yes, the land flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. You can feel the excitement ripple through the crowd. This is it. But then comes one of the most faith-shattering words in history. Nevertheless, the people who dwell in the land are strong. The cities are fortified and very large. And moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there, giants. The spies, except for 2 brave souls, Caleb and Joshua, paint a picture of doom. They describe themselves as grasshoppers in the sight of these towering inhabitants. Their report shifts from one of promise to one of impossibility. The fear is contagious. It spreads like wildfire through the camp of over 1 million people. All night long, the sound of weeping fills the desert air. They cry out, "If only we had died in Egypt, or in this wilderness." They forget God's power that split the Red Sea. They forget the plagues that humbled the most powerful empire on earth. They forget the pillar of fire and cloud that guided them day and night. In their terror, they turn on Moses and Aaron, even suggesting they choose a new leader to take them back to slavery in Egypt. It's a full-blown rebellion, born from a report tainted by fear. Caleb and Joshua try to rally the people. "The land we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land," they plead. "Do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them," but the people's hearts are hardened. They are so consumed by fear that they talk of stoning Caleb and Joshua. At this moment of ultimate crisis, the glory of the Lord appears. God's judgment is swift and just. He declares that this generation, the one that saw his glory and his signs, yet refused to trust him, will not enter the promised land. For every day the spies were in the land 40 days, the Israelites will wander in the wilderness for a year. 40 years of wandering. An entire generation sentenced to perish in the desert, just shy of their destination, because they chose fear over faith. Thus begins the long, arduous 40 years in the wilderness. It's a period of transition, a slow and painful changing of the guard. The generation that came out of Egypt, with their slave mentality and their ingrained fear, begins to die off. Their children, however, grow up in a different reality. They don't know the whips of Egypt. They know the provision of God. Every single morning, without fail, they wake up to find manna, the bread from heaven, blanketing the ground. They are guided by a supernatural cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, a constant, visible reminder of God's presence and protection. This isn't just a story of punishment. It's a story of preparation. God is forging a new nation in the crucible of the wilderness. During these years, there are moments of profound loss and critical lessons. Miriam, the prophetess who led the women in song after crossing the Red Sea, passes away. Not long after, Aaron, the first high priest and Moses' brother, also dies. The leadership trio that brought Israel out of Egypt is slowly dwindling. It's a stark reminder that even the greatest leaders are mortal, and a new generation must be ready to take their place. It's also during this time that Moses himself makes a critical mistake. The people, thirsty and complaining again, gather against him at a place called Meribah. God tells Moses to speak to a rock, and it will pour forth water. But Moses, frustrated and angered by the people's constant rebellion, strikes the rock twice with his staff instead of speaking to it. Water gushes out, yes, but Moses disobeyed God's specific command. In his anger, he took the glory for himself rather than sanctifying God in the eyes of the people. For this act of disobedience, God tells Moses that he, too, will not be the one to lead the people into the promised land. It's a heartbreaking moment, a powerful lesson that leadership requires absolute obedience and humility, no matter the provocation. As the 40 years draw to a close, you can see a tangible change in the people. The children who grew up in the wilderness are now adults. They are not the fearful, complaining crowd that stood at the edge of Canaan decades earlier. They have been hardened by the desert, disciplined by God's law, and sustained by His daily miracles. They've learned to fight, winning key battles against hostile kings like Sihon and Og. They are no longer a disorganized mob of former slaves. They are a cohesive, battle-ready nation. They have matured. Moses, now 120 years old, knows his time is short. He gathers the new generation on the plains of Moab, overlooking the Jordan River and the promised land they are about to enter. He delivers his final, powerful speeches, which we know as the Book of Deuteronomy. He recounts their history, reminds them of God's laws, and passionately urges them to choose life and obedience. He warns them of the consequences of forgetting God and blesses each of the tribes. Then Moses lays his hands on his successor, Joshua, one of the 2 faithful spies from 40 years prior. He publicly commissions him, transferring the authority and spirit of leadership. Finally, Moses ascends Mount Nebo. From its peak, God shows him the entirety of the promised land, the inheritance he would not enter, but had worked his whole life to reach. There, alone with God, the great prophet Moses dies, and the Lord himself buries him in a secret valley. A new era has dawned. Joshua, filled with the spirit of wisdom, is now in command. The people are ready to follow him. What a transformation! They went from a people who wanted to stone their leaders and return to slavery, to a unified nation ready to conquer a land filled with giants. The journey through the wilderness was not just a punishment. It was a necessary process. It was God's way of stripping away the fear, the doubt, and the slave mentality of the old generation and raising up a new one, a generation that learned to walk by faith, to depend on God daily, and to trust His promises above their own fears. They were finally ready not just to enter the land, but to possess it as the nation God always intended them to be. Their story serves as a powerful reminder for us all. The wilderness periods of our lives, the times of wandering and waiting, are often the very places where God prepares us for our promise. Thank you so much for watching. If this story of transformation resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Let us know in the comments what part of this journey stood out to you the most. We'll see you in the next video.